In the previous lesson, we introduced the 4 pillars of product work: feature opportunity validation, feature design, feature development, and feature launch and iteration. We're now going to dive into the first pillar, feature opportunity validation. Features are the most common types of projects early career PMs contribute to, whether that means improving existing features or launching new ones. As a PM, it's easy to simply take the projects you're assigned at face value and execute them. But one of the critical roles of a product manager, regardless of how experienced you are, is to validate that the work you are doing will create value for the business and the user before diving in. Therefore, the starting point of any great feature work is validating the opportunity. But what do we mean by validating an opportunity? For an opportunity to be worth pursuing, it needs to have 3 components. The first is strategic fit. It needs to align with the strategy and goals of the company. The second component is user value. The opportunity needs to solve a relevant problem for a target user. The third component is business value. Solving the problem for the user needs to create a positive impact for the business. Let's understand how each component plays a role in the success of an opportunity, beginning with strategic fit. Successful opportunities are aligned with business strategy at every level. This means the feature is contributing to the goals of the team, the product, and the company, and ultimately drives the company forward in a meaningful way. In addition, when your feature has strategic fit, you get buy-in from the leadership team and your cross-functional stakeholders more easily. The second critical component of a successful feature opportunity is user value. User value is an especially important component for junior PMs to assess and understand, because when a manager assigns you a project, it's likely they already have a strong hypothesis about strategic fit and business value. However, you're at an advantage when it comes to user value because you spend more time regularly interacting with users. Your role as a PM is to understand the user and represent them within the company. Understanding and validating users' problems enables you to build features and products that solve them. If your project doesn't solve a relevant user problem, you'll struggle to drive adoption. After all, nobody wants to spend time using something that isn't creating value for them in some way. The third and final component of a successful feature opportunity is that it creates business value. Ultimately, your goal should be to solve a relevant user problem in a way that also captures some form of value for the business. For example, a project that streamlines a payment process could drive an improvement in your sales conversion rate, therefore improving the company's revenue. Another project could improve user experience and increase positive ratings for the application, leading to more downloads. A successful feature brings all 3 components together. It has solid strategic fit, while also delivering value to both the user and the business. When an opportunity is missing one or more of these components, it will most likely not deliver meaningful outcomes. Here's an example. Amazon tried to launch the Fire Phone as a way to break into the mobile market. This was a good strategic fit because it leveraged Amazon's language processing technology. It also had strong potential to deliver business value since it integrated well with Amazon's e-commerce business. The hypothesis was that the product would make it easier for users to order on Amazon via mobile, therefore increasing order frequency and e-commerce revenue. Unfortunately, the Fire Phone was unable to deliver user value because it didn't effectively solve a user problem. The Fire Phone leveraged its own operating system and had a limited app store to choose from. The user experience was inferior to existing alternatives like Android or Apple phones. The Fire Phone's failure to deliver user value resulted in poor user ratings and ultimately informed Amazon's decision to discontinue the Fire Phone a year after it was launched. In contrast, let's look at Alphabet's Google Photos product. Google Photos was a great strategic fit because it integrated with and deepened the usage of their existing Google Drive product. It also drove value for the business by opening up new opportunities to earn revenue through paying for more storage space or ordering photo prints. And finally, it leveraged the company's AI expertise to provide a highly differentiated and valuable experience for users. Google Photos was met with tons of praise and positive reviews upon launch and continues to be a very popular product today. It has over 5 billion downloads on the Google Play Store and has an average rating of 4.7 out of 5 stars on the Apple App Store. These two examples demonstrate the importance of validating the three components of a feature opportunity before designing and developing a feature. If one of these is missing, it's important for PMs to raise the issue with their manager or product leader. This allows everyone involved to understand if the opportunity is still worth pursuing. However, it's not enough to validate that an opportunity has all three components. Rather, successful PMs communicate their understanding back to leadership and stakeholders to build alignment on what problem they're solving, for which users, how much value it creates for the company, and why solving the problem is important. This alignment is critical to ensure you have the buy-in to pursue the opportunity. In this module, we'll help new PMs with the two objectives of validating feature opportunities. First, we'll teach you how to validate each component of a feature opportunity: strategic fit, user value, and business value, to determine if it's worth pursuing. And then we'll discuss how to build alignment with key stakeholders across the company to get your project up and running. We'll introduce a 4-step process to help sequence and execute these two objectives. It begins with conducting a manager briefing. Then you'll refine the user value, refine the business value, and finally, validate and communicate the opportunity. Let's look at each of these steps in more detail. The first step is to conduct a manager briefing with your manager or product leader. Traditionally, new PMs are handed projects that have been pre-vetted and scoped. Most of the time, this means their manager or product leader has given some thought as to why the work is important for the company, the product, and the team. But it's not enough to simply accept these reasons as fact. PMs need to understand the context behind why the opportunity has actually been prioritized. This is important for a number of reasons. First, understanding the context enables you to identify your team's hypotheses about your user, their problem, and the potential business value this project can create. These explicit assumptions should be validated before you proceed with feature design and development. Second, you may also uncover implicit assumptions that your manager and the leadership team have made about the project. These are additional areas to pressure test when engaging with users and internal stakeholders. Third, it's critical that you fully understand the project context so you can communicate it clearly to your design and engineering counterparts. Your core team needs to be aligned on the importance of the project for users and the business, as well as how it supports the team and company goals. This context will help focus the team on what matters as you design and develop the feature. Finally, understanding the context behind a project enables you to build alignment with your product leader and other members of the leadership team by connecting your project back to their goals and the company's goals. Setting expectations clearly with leadership at this stage can help prevent misaligned expectations and blow-ups later in the development process. In this section, we'll walk through how to run a manager briefing that enables you to gather all of the necessary context about the project opportunity. We'll use the 3 components of a feature opportunity to guide the discussion. The second step is to refine the user value by conducting user interviews. The most effective way to understand your users is by speaking with them directly. Interviews are a critical lever you can use to pressure test your hypotheses around who your users are and what problems they're facing. To conduct a great user interview, PMs need to do 3 things well. First, they need to be thoughtful about who they interview. In the next section, we'll show you how to identify your target audience and choose the right users to interview. Second, they need to structure the conversation without asking leading or biased questions. We'll show you how to organize your interview questions around key evidence needs and mitigate common biases and traps that PMs often fall into. And finally, they need to synthesize their interview findings. We'll show you how to effectively debrief after your interviews and synthesize your conversation into key insights and takeaways relevant to the project. The third step is to refine the potential business value of the opportunity. The project you're working on has been prioritized for a reason. Your manager and the leadership team believe there's value for the business to capture. It's your job as a PM to validate the probable magnitude of this business value. For most PMs, the business value of their projects comes in one of 2 ways. In one case, you're given a metric and a specific target to hit, and you work backward from there. For example, there's a present hypothesis that your project could improve activation, the metric, by 5%, the target. It's your job as a PM to validate whether the 5% increase goal is feasible. In the second scenario, you're given a metric and you're responsible for setting a reasonable target. For example, you're told to improve activation but are not given a target. It's your job to identify a feasible target that your team can hit. The best PMs make sure they're running their own analysis to estimate the potential business value of the opportunity. Doing so not only pressure tests your manager's impact assumptions, but also enables you to feel more confident in your ability to deliver on that estimate. When you consistently demonstrate that you can deliver business value, your efforts are recognized, you gain traction in your role, and you accelerate your career. But if you don't refine your business value hypotheses, you're putting the project and your reputation at risk. You might end up developing a feature that creates little or no value for the company. These types of projects commonly get deprioritized when product leaders or managers realize there's no return on investment. Even if they manage to launch, the project may have to be sunsetted or deprecated later. In the third section of this module, we will introduce funnel analysis, an approach to mapping a series of related events or actions that enables you to identify the biggest points of drop-off. You can then use proxy metrics to estimate the potential business value of your opportunity at those key points. The last step is to validate and communicate the opportunity back to your stakeholders. In this step, you'll share learnings and conclusions with your project team, your leadership team, and any other dependency teams impacted by the project. It's important to share this information with each key stakeholder in order to build alignment. If you continue to the next phase of the product development process without completing this step, misalignments will start to have negative repercussions on your progress. This can manifest in a couple of ways. The first is rework during design and development. This can happen when the individuals on your team don't fully understand the problem they're solving or why they're solving it. This can lead them to make decisions that fail to bring your project closer to driving the intended user and business value. Late-stage blow-ups can also occur when the leadership team has a different vision for the feature and is surprised when what gets launched doesn't meet those expectations. To avoid these consequences, you need a structured approach to building alignment early with these stakeholders. In the fourth section of this module, we'll discuss how to do this using a tool called a product review. These learnings from the feature opportunity validation pillar will inform your product requirements document or product spec. This document is the single source of truth that articulates why this feature is important, its strategic relevance, the customer problem it's targeting, and the business value it's aimed at creating. In the remainder of this module, we'll walk through this four-step process to validating your feature opportunity. Let's start with the first step in the opportunity validation process, conducting a manager briefing.